My name is Andrew Foster. I'm 68 years old. And I've been sitting with a feeling most of my life that I couldn't name until recently, a kind of quiet guilt that followed me everywhere, even in moments that were supposed to feel like enough. I'm not telling this because I think it makes me special. I'm telling it because time has thinned out in front of me, and there isn't much room left to keep pretending I don't understand what happened. I live alone now. Small house. Same one my wife and I moved into almost 30 years ago, back when we thought it would be temporary. Some mornings I wake up before the sun, not because I need to, but because sleep doesn't hold me the way it used to. When the house is quiet, really quiet, things come back to me. Not all at once. Just little pieces. Moments I didn't think mattered. I used to think guilt was something you earned by doing something wrong. Lying. Cheating. Putting someone on purpose. I spent most of my life thinking I'd avoided that. I was steady. Reliable. I showed up. But the guilt I carried didn't come from doing too much damage. It came from wanting something I never felt allowed to want. When you're young, you don't realize how often you make decisions by subtraction. You don't say, "I'm choosing less." You say, "This is responsible." Or, "This is what people do." Or, "This is enough." In my 20s, I thought wanting more was a kind of moral failure. I grew up in a house where you didn't complain. You took what was given and made it work. My father worked at the same plant for 41 years. My mother learned how to stretch every dollar until it was almost transparent. They weren't unkind people. They just believed comfort was suspicious. If you were content, that was fine. If you wanted more than what you had, that meant you weren't grateful enough. So when I finished school and took a job that paid decently and didn't ask too much of me, I told myself I was lucky. When I met my wife, Ellen, and she loved me for being steady and predictable, I told myself that was what love was supposed to feel like. And when, every so often, a thought crept in, just a small one, barely formed, that maybe there was something else I wanted, I pushed it away. Not because it was dangerous, but because it felt selfish. The thing is, wanting more didn't feel like ambition. It felt like disloyalty. Disloyalty to my parents. To Ellen. To the version of myself that had learned early on that you don't ask for too much. So I learned how to quiet that voice. I stayed busy. I stayed useful. I stayed tired. I told myself that restlessness was a phase. That it would pass if I ignored it long enough. It didn't. It just learned how to wait. By my 30s, my life looked good from the outside. A job title that sounded respectable. Mortgage. 2 kids. Weekends filled with errands and obligations and the low-level exhaustion that comes from doing everything you're supposed to do. I wasn't unhappy. That's important to say. I wasn't miserable. I just wasn't fully there. There's a difference, but it takes a long time to notice it. Most days ran together. Wake up. Coffee. Commute. Work. Home. Dinner. Television. Sleep. Repeat. Every now and then, I'd catch myself staring out the window at work, wondering how other people ended up where they did. Artists. Travelers. Men who took chances. Men who failed publicly and survived it. Then someone would walk by my desk, or the phone would ring, and I'd snap back into place. Like a rubber band pulled too far. I remember one afternoon in particular. I must have been 37 or 38. I was driving home, stuck in traffic, radio low. A song came on that I hadn't heard in years. Something I used to listen to before life got crowded. And for a few minutes, I felt it. The version of me I used to be. The one who believed his life could still turn sharply in another direction. By the time I pulled into the driveway, that feeling had already started to fade. I went inside. Helped with homework. Asked how everyone's day was. Did the dishes. That night, lying next to Ellen, I thought about saying something. Not anything dramatic. Just something honest. I didn't. I told myself it wasn't the right time. There would be another chance. There always seemed to be another chance. Until there wasn't. The cost of delaying your truth isn't immediate. That's why it's so easy to do. You don't lose everything at once. You lose it in pieces so small you barely notice them leaving. A conversation you don't have because you're tired. A dream you joke about instead of admitting you still want it. A habit of saying, maybe someday, until someday becomes a story you tell about someone else. I missed my daughter's school play once because of a late meeting. Just one. I made it to all the others. But I still remember her face when she saw me walk in after it was over. She tried not to look disappointed. That was worse than if she had cried. I told myself it was unavoidable. That I was doing it for the family. That one sacrifice didn't mean anything. But it meant something to her. And it meant something to me, even if I didn't let myself feel it at the time. Ellen and I started talking less somewhere in our 40s. Not fighting. Just less. Conversations became logistical. Groceries. Schedules. Bills. When she asked how I was, I gave her updates, not answers. I think she noticed before I did. Or maybe she noticed and didn't know what to do with it. There were moments, late at night, when she'd ask, "Are you happy?" I hated that question. Not because it was unfair, but because I didn't know how to answer it without opening something I'd spent years keeping closed. "I'm fine," I'd say. Which was true, in the narrowest sense of the word. The guilt came in quietly. Not as shame. as a low hum. Every time I imagined a different life, I felt like I was betraying the one I had. As if wanting more meant I didn't appreciate what was already in front of me. So I learned how to want less. Or at least how to pretend I did. By the time I was 50, the idea of changing anything felt ridiculous. Who does that at 50? Who risks stability for something they can't even clearly name? I told myself it was too late. That the window had closed. That wanting more at my age was indulgent. The truth is, I'd been telling myself it was too late since I was 35. The turning point didn't arrive with a bang. It came on a Tuesday. Ellen had been tired for months. Not dramatically tired. Just worn down. We both assumed it was life. Stress. Age is catching up. When the diagnosis came, it landed between us like a dropped plate. Loud. Irreversible. Cancer rearranges time. Suddenly, everything is measured differently. Appointments. Treatments. Scans. Waiting. I watched her grow smaller while the house grew quieter. I learned how to cook things she could stomach. I learned how to sit in silence without trying to fix it. And in those long afternoons, sitting beside her, holding her hand while she slept, something inside me started to come apart. Not because I was losing her, though I was, but because I realized how much of myself I had never let her see. There were things I wanted to say. About the years. About the distance. About the parts of me I'd kept folded away to be acceptable. I thought I'd have time. She died in the fall. Leaves on the ground. Cold air. A season that felt too on the nose. After the funeral, after the casseroles and the condolences and the slow return of normal life for everyone else, I was left alone with the house and my thoughts. That's when the guilt got louder. Not guilty for loving her poorly. I loved her the best way I knew how. Guilt for living half a life beside her. Guilt for assuming there would always be a later to be more honest. More present. More of myself. There are things you can't fix once someone is gone. Apologies you can't deliver. Truths that no longer have a place to land. I walk through the house now and see all the moments I postponed. The conversations that stayed in my throat. The version of myself I thought I'd become eventually. Eventually never showed up. My children are grown. They have their own lives, their own rhythms. They call. They visit. I am grateful for them. But I can feel the shape of the man they know me as. Reliable. Quiet. Slightly distant. I wonder sometimes who they would have known if I'd let myself be more complicated. If I'd believed that wanting more didn't mean loving them less. That's the thing I finally understand at 68. The guilt wasn't there because I was wrong to want more. It was there because I thought wanting more meant I was ungrateful for what I had. No one ever told me those two things could exist at the same time. You can love your life and still wish parts of it were different. You can be thankful and restless. You can be loyal and still feel unfinished. I wish I had known that earlier. Not so I could have blown everything up, but so I could have spoken more honestly, asked harder questions. Let me be seen. If you're listening to this and you're younger than me, I don't have advice. I only have a truth earned the slow way. Pay attention to the things you feel guilty for wanting. Not because they're dangerous, but because they might be trying to tell you something about who you are. Don't wait until loss clears the noise for you. I have time left. Not as much as I thought I would, but some. I'm learning how to sit with myself now. How to let the wanting exist without shame. It's quieter these days. Slower. That's not a complaint. I just wish I hadn't spent so long apologizing to myself for wanting to be more alive. If this meant something to you, sit with it. You don't need to do anything about it right away. Just don't pretend it isn't there. That's what I did. And I'm still learning how to live with that.